basically I floor it and you'll hear it. It does nothing. It doesn't even accelerate. Like, whoop! Like, I have no idea what's happening. Okay, so I'm going to be replacing this sensor, which is the cam sensor, and this in conjunction with the crank sensor basically verifies position of everything. Let's just say the position of the cam in correlation with the crank. So after I do this and replace the crank sensor, I'll go ahead and do a crank relearn to make sure everything is kosher, and we'll see if the issue goes away. Well, looks to be good. There it is. Okay, so that's firmly connected there. Very nice. That was right. So if I had AC in this car, I would have had to have taken the AC out to remove that. So luckily, I just have a idler pulley. Loosen the tension on the big billet tensioner. Loosen that. That guy should come out. Hey guys, your favorite Mustang uncle here, Alex. Today, what we're going to work on is the GT500. Now, a lot of you that have watched the channel for a little bit understand that I've been having issues with this GT500. The latest issue is under boost, nothing happens. It literally doesn't rev. It just feels like it does nothing. Like the moment it sees boost, it does nothing. For those of you that want to get caught up on what's going on with this car is, well, the motor previously broke a chain on the second bank. So I sent it out, got the motor built, come back, brake in miles, no wide open throttle. The moment I go to the dyno at wide open throttle, this thing stutters, misfires, and it sounds like it's not hitting on all 8 cylinders. So after checking this side, bank 2, there was number 5, had an oil leak. Come to find out, these cam covers that were replaced are old and they don't seal properly, so I had to clean that up. And then I thought I was good. I thought it was just a plug misfire. Then come to find out that anytime you try to go under boost, the car is not happy. So Jake thought of a pretty funny idea. He says, let's take the blower belt off, because the blower belt is only responsible for boost. There is no accessories. There are no accessories being driven by the blower belt except AC, and I can do without AC, but this doesn't have an AC compressor. It has a delete kit. So I go out there with no blower, but everything else working properly, meaning no boost. And under NA, it revs beautifully. It revs cleanly. And I thought, crap, it could be something. And then Jake suggested it's valve springs. Now, you would ask yourself, how the hell can it be valve springs? I said, yeah, me too. I don't know. Well, think about it this way. So, before I get too ahead of myself, I verified. I verified that these are the same valve springs that were on the car previous build. Now this is an 7-year-old motor. The springs were checked, were within spec supposedly, but were not replaced. So the issue could lie in valve springs. Now, if you're a motor builder, do you replace the valve springs if you're doing a motor rebuild? I would, but they were checked and they were within spec. So if it's a valve spring issue, then obviously we're going to have some conversations. But the issue lies in number 4, number 8, and number 5. So what I'm going to do is because you cannot do valve springs with the engine in the car, because the cams have to come off, because the front cover has to come off, you have to take this thing out. You have to take the motor out to work on the stuff, which is a byproduct of an overhead cam engine, especially 32 valve. So what I'm going to do is, I know it's easy to take the blower off, and I'm going to attempt to take the cam covers off and see if on number 4, 8, and 5 there's an obvious visual issue with the spring, because those are the springs that are acting up. Again, we verified everything else. We replaced spark plugs, we replaced bypasses, new O2s, new coils. I have spent over $500 in diagnosing this car, and it's pretty much a mechanical issue. So I'm gonna go ahead take off the cam covers and see what we see. I'm not going to show you the process. You know it's straightforward. Blow her off and just blow shit apart and see if we spot anything obvious where the springs, the intake spring specifically. This is the thought process. If the intake spring is weak and it's lifted, right, the cam then goes down. Sorry, it goes up to allow air to come in. So the intake cam opens, the intake valve opens, puts air in it, but if it doesn't have the power to close it, meaning if the spring is not pushing down enough at 25 pounds of boost to close the intake valve so that the combustion can happen properly, and then the exhaust cam opens the exhaust valve and exhausts the gases. If the intake springs are weak, it'll flutter and it'll have a hard time closing, keeping the combustion in the combustion chamber. And Jake thinks that's what's happening right now. So let me take it apart. We'll see if we see anything visually wrong with 4, 8, and 5. So some of the clues that made us think that there's basically exhaust. Think about it. Exhaust can, let's say the intake valve is still open while the combustion's happening. Exhaust gases, soot, will make its way back through that hole in the intercooler. So when we looked in here, okay, let me, okay, see my pinky? We started seeing soot, not oil, soot. Like up in here, there's a bunch of soot, like carbon, see? So we're like, is the combustion coming back through the blower? When we flipped it, we checked the rotors had a little carbon buildup, so that made us go, maybe the springs are bad. So again, 4, 8, and 5. Okay, so this is number 1. This is, obviously 1, 2. Intake is the top, and I'm going to try to get a video of me pushing down on the spring, because this one it's in the relieved position. Is that supposed to happen? Alright, this might be a good angle. So, number 8, this is where the plug was jacked up. 2 hands back on the hood, nothing crazy. Look at that. I can move it easy. Yeah. Okay, there you saw that I did some preliminary testing. Again, I'm not trying to get an aha moment here. What I'm trying to do is fix the issue and determine what the problem is. So I've done my due diligence. I've gone back and I've checked what an aftermarket spring goes for, what an aftermarket spring looked like, and I am surprised at one key feature of GT500 springs. Once I remove the springs that are in here, or at least I get verification as to what spring goes where, I'll let you guys know what that is. It is an interesting thing, specifically to the GT500s and the spring set. So I wonder if that was taken into account. But again, what I'm trying to do is just fix the issue. So I have already, today is the 17th of December, 7:15 p.m. And I've already removed the transmission. I've removed the blower. Everything is out. The motor mounts are loose. Everything is ready to come out now. So I busted my ass most of the afternoon just to get ready to get the motor pulled out of there. Tomorrow after work, I'll get on it for 2 or 3 hours and see if I can at least get the motor on the ground. Once the motor's on the ground, I'll get Jake over here and we can start tearing it down, taking the cams off of it. And depending on what the third party that I mentioned in the chat today says, I'll probably be shipping the heads or bringing the heads to somewhere based in Florida. If not, then Jake and I will be installing new springs on the car with the engine out of the car, and then we'll be resetting the cams in the car and see how everything goes then. So thanks for hanging in there with me. By the way, in the chat today I mentioned a particular part that I'm very curious as to what is installed in this car, and that is the oil pump gear and the crank sprocket. I am gonna see what's installed in there and we'll see how all that goes. Hopefully I can get that video sometime midweek before the Christmas vacation, and we can then see what we have to do to get this fixed, making good power, and finally running 8s in the quarter mile. So hopefully we can get that done sooner than later. Thanks for hanging in there with me, trying to diagnose this GT500. I'll keep you guys updated as much as possible. Thanks for listening, guys. Talk to you later.